Welcome to the Send Talk podcast, your easy to understand guide to some of the most common queries we get asked when it comes to special educational needs and disabilities, or SEND. I'm your host, Vic Elizabeth Turnbull, and together with SENDIASS Manchester, the city's information, advice and support service for SEND, we'll empower you to make informed decisions for you or your child. You'll hear from the SENDIASS Manchester team, and also in this episode, a parent talking about their unique SEN journey and how things are from their own perspective. And they'll both join me online for a chat. In this episode, I'm back with Laura Nardella, a caseworker from SENDIASS Manchester, to talk about what happens during and after your school meetings. If you want to find out how to prep for school meetings, so the step before actually going to a meeting, listen to the previous episode with Laura. I start by asking Laura her top tips for parents at school meetings. So now it's time for the meeting. So I want you, Laura, to tell me your top tips for parents at school meetings.
Be on time. If you're going to be late, phone ahead. Dead obvious one, really. You want to start well. So when you're all sat down, you might have people there that you recognise, but you're kind of thinking, who are they again? I've seen them before. It's really embarrassing. You know, I've got people who live down my street. I've met them loads of times. I don't know the names. I don't want to ask anymore. It's been too long. At almost every professional meeting that I've had, even when everybody knows each other, we always say ask for introductions. So that's a really good thing to do. If somebody else doesn't do it, you do it. Just say, can we just start with introductions, and say everyone should say their name and who they are, what their role is. And what's really helpful is that you might have been dealing with a member of staff at school, but you didn't know that they were assistant SENCO. You didn't know that they were deputy head or head of year. So start with introductions. The next thing is ask who will be taking notes at the meeting. So sometimes during the introductions, someone will say, I'll be taking notes for this meeting when they introduce themselves. But it's absolutely perfectly fine to ask who will be taking notes. Will anybody be taking notes? And what we call minutes of the meeting. And then ask if they're going to be sharing them, or ask them to share them, really, because that's what should happen.
So the parent doesn't need to take any notes then?
No, sorry. The parent does need to take notes.
Oh.
So someone might be taking official minutes of the meeting, and that's great. Get them to send them to you. But absolutely, you as a parent, you need to be taking your own notes. You don't need to write everything down, just the important things. You wouldn't believe how many things you forget almost immediately after the meeting. If you've brought a friend along or someone, perhaps they can take notes for you so that you can focus on the meeting, or perhaps you both want to take notes because someone might miss something. There's no right way of taking notes. The only thing is that you may want to make sure that you really clarify what actions are happening. So, for example, if someone said, I'm not sure about access arrangements, I'm going to speak to Mr. So-and-so and I'll get back to you. That's an action. But apart from that, just take any notes that you want to, what seems important to you. We do actually have a SENDIASS template for school meetings, which is attached to our fact sheet.
That seems really super helpful, and we'll be putting a link to that in the show notes, and also it's available on your website too.
It really is, yes. Again, some of these things might be dead obvious, but try and be positive with the professionals and acknowledge the support that's already been given to your child at the school. Even though things are going wrong, it's always more helpful to be calm and composed and polite in the meeting. You're all working together to help your child, and the school want to really work with you as well. So it's just a good way to get a constructive and positive meeting with good outcomes. It's absolutely completely okay to not agree with professionals. And obviously that can be done in a polite way as well. If you don't think something will work, absolutely bring it up with them and you can explain your reasons why, discuss alternatives, ask them for other solutions. At the end of the day, you have a lot of important information to give. So don't be afraid of making your own suggestions. And I think once you know that you can do that, it takes some of the emotion away from it as well, because it can then feel a bit like making a complaint, and it's like you're challenging the school, but you're not challenging, you're just saying, oh, actually, that's not really going to work for my child because of this. And Let's plan something else better together.
And this is where your planning comes in, isn't it?
That's right, because if you've been really specific about what the issues are, everyone can be a lot more constructive about what the solutions are in place. So it becomes more of a logistical discussion. So it's saying, for example, who's going to support my child emotionally? If we're going back to the child with anxiety in high school, who's going to support them to actually physically come into the school? Then it becomes more of a conversation of, who do we have available? Who can meet them outside? Where are they going to meet them outside? Actually, that's not going to work for my child because it's a really busy part of the school. Oh, actually, what we can do is we can get your child to come in 20 minutes early. So that will be a quiet area of the school. And, so you can work together a bit like that. But it's really important not to just feel like you've just got to say yes to everything, because then you won't go away happy at the end of the meeting. Another thing that parents say to us is that they get blindsided, or they're worried that they're going to have all the answers. So the school might say something, or a professional might say something, and they might think, okay, that doesn't really sound quite right. Then they feel like they have to agree to it. So I've had parents when I've sort of said, well, you thought that wasn't right, so why did you agree with it? And they said, well, I didn't know how to explain why it wasn't right, so I thought I had to agree with it because the school was saying it. So they feel they get stuck in this situation. So when you're in a meeting, a really good tip that I give my parents is, if somebody says something that you're not quite sure about, it's perfectly okay to say, can I just make a note of that? Get them to re-say it. So it could be, we're not allowed to issue an early exit card for lunch because it's not fair for the other pupils. And you think, that doesn't sound quite right. I think I've heard something about reasonable adjustments on a podcast with Jill Carr, but I'm not sure about it, and I don't feel confident in challenging the school now. So you can just say to that person, okay, Vic, can you just repeat that? You're saying that you're not allowed to issue that because it's not fair for the other pupils. I'm just going to write it down. And then what you say is, I'm just going to get some more information on that after the meeting, and I will come back to you with that as soon as possible. So I can't comment on that now. So it's kind of like saying it's a no comment, but you're going to get more information. And then once you get more information, either from a website, the SENDIASS service, someone else, another professional, or someone that you trust, then you can always just go back and make a comment on that. Challenge it in an informed way.
That's great advice.
So you're going through your list, your super organized notes for the meeting. Tick off everything that you want to speak about. It could be that you don't get to the bottom of the list because there's been a lot to discuss. That's absolutely fine. Just ask to have another meeting, and then you can roll over that topic of conversation if you can't extend the meeting time at that time. But at least you'll have a really clear idea of what's actually been discussed, what are the actions for those points, and then what still needs to be talked about. So the next part is confirm the action plan. Obviously, that should be in the minutes of the meetings. You'll have your own notes of that. That's kind of like saying, what's going to be put in place? We've done this meeting. What have we agreed? What's going to happen? And it could be that things happen, or the action plan could be someone's going to go get some more information and come back with that, and then we're going to carry on from there. So I should be able to say to the parent, great, you've had your school meeting. So what's been agreed? And you should be able to access that information really easy. It should be really quite clear. If you're not sure what's going to happen at the end of the meeting, because it's been quite complex, you can just say that at the meeting. Okay, can someone just go through the actions with me? Can someone just say 1, 2, 3, 4, what's going to be happening? And they'll say that, and you can then write that down if you've not been able to take notes. If you need another meeting, for example, you haven't got through everything, or it's something that you just need to carry on discussing, or there's other things that need to be discussed, it's quite a good idea to try and plan a meeting whilst everyone's around the table, get a date in place straight away, or just acknowledge that another meeting is required. Basically, it's something else that could be put on the action plan. New meeting to be arranged, and that could be the last action on your action plan.
And then, right, done the meeting,
Woo!
Go home, yes. Go home, have a massive cup of tea.
I know, I feel quite stressed about it just thinking about fictional meeting.
Don't stress, because you're going to plan.
It was amazing. It was a really constructive meeting.
So what do I do after?
You want someone to share the minutes with you. Let's say nobody took notes at the meeting. I always say to the parent, share your notes anyway, even if someone's sending them minutes. I know some parents won't want to do that, but if you can, just make a note of it. Write an email and say, it's great to meet you all at the meeting today or yesterday or whenever it was, even if it's a week later. These are the notes that I had from this meeting, and just bob them down, just bullet point them. Maybe, thank everyone for their attendance. And it could be that you've got some follow-up questions, or then you follow up. It's an opportunity to follow up and arrange another meeting if that was necessary. And then you're done until the next meeting.
You can just see how important that prep is. Imagine doing all that without having taken an hour, 2 hours, 3 hours to take that time to have a bit of a prep.
Absolutely. It's not saying that parents don't know what they're going to say and they don't have that expertise on their child. It's just another thing that you're another stress that you're adding to yourself. You're at a meeting, you're responding to things. You've got to then think on the hoof and make sure you don't forget anything. There's no reason to put yourself under that stress, and just do a little bit of prep work, and hopefully your meeting will be successful.
Thanks, Laura. Now let's rejoin Siarah, who you heard from in the previous episode. I picked Siarah's brains about tips for when you're at school meetings and what actually happens during the follow-up. Thank you so much for joining us on this episode of the SENDIASS Manchester Send Talks podcast. What's that process like then after the meeting? Is it up to you to follow stuff up?
Over the years, I've got better at reaching out and asking for the meetings. So if actions have been identified as part of or from the last meeting, if I haven't heard anything a month later, for instance, or depending on what it is, whether it's something more urgent a few days later, a week or two later, or something not as urgent where I will give it a few more weeks, I would then make contact again to either speak or to meet. So I've taken a much more proactive approach. And again, it just comes down to previous experiences, not to do with schools, but maybe to do with other health agencies where my son's been referred for a certain reason to a specific agency, and 3 months later, time's passed, I've not heard anything. I've chased it up to find out that the referral hasn't even been completed, and then that's 3 months wasted where we have to go back to square one to request the referral to be sent. So because there's been a lot of bad luck from COVID, I've learned to not leave things so long, and don't be scared to send that email, to pick up that phone, to request that meeting, because as the parent, your child's obviously number one and will always be that advocate. And you're not nagging, you're not a nuisance. It's actually the complete opposite. You're helping your child by doing this, so don't worry.
Does the school send you minutes? Like, what happens?
So what I have been receiving is, after the meeting, I'd usually get an email or a letter confirming everything what was discussed in the meeting and the plan going forward. They're probably more for the formal meetings where something quite significant has been decided or a significant action. But equally, there have been meetings where there hasn't always been correspondence afterwards, but there may not have needed to be correspondence. And then equally, if a few weeks have gone by, I may well receive an email, say from the SENCO or from a phone call. But equally, if I haven't, I would then chase that up.
And during the meetings, do you take notes?
I do. I always go with my little notebook. It's red and it's got sequin hearts on it, so no one can miss it.
Amazing.
I think I like it for that reason. It's sensory because you can literally move the sequins up and down, so it helps me to stay calm. I take notes just so I don't need to rely on memory, because a lot of information can be shared in meetings, and if somebody is minuting, which is fantastic, there can always be a delay with the minutes being disseminated. So I just like to make notes for my own sake, so I don't need to constantly think about, oh, what was it that was said? What is it that I need to remember? But because my son is under 15 professionals, we're having constant appointments, so I can literally just refer back to my notebook going, oh yeah, X, Y and Z was discussed at this meeting, and I can update them that way rather than going, oh, actually, I've forgotten what was said about his fine motor skills. It's all there. It's a little journal, which again has helped me from a memory point of view, but also to update professionals at appointments as well. And I don't write essays in my notebook. It's literally just bullet points, but it's enough to refer back to help me remember for the future.
Fab. Some great advice here. Thank you so much for sharing. If there's one key bit of advice for parents in your situation who may be in the same shoes as you that you were last year, and they've got that email from the school asking for a meeting, what's the one tip for them to either calm their nerves or not be worried about it?
I think what I should have done last year when I got that email, I should have asked the reason for why we're meeting, because I was told in that email we're concerned about what's happened, all the incidents that have happened on that day, and can we meet to discuss it further. I should have really asked, again, in a diplomatic way, or even just being pragmatic. Don't need to feel that you're being intense, because you're not. But that I'm more than happy to attend. Can I please ask who will be present and what will be discussed in the meeting, just to help calm my anxieties and to feel prepared, because I didn't feel prepared going into that meeting.
Some fabulous advice, and thank you so much for sharing your story and your experiences, Siarah. And I hope that things you've discussed with me in this episode will help lots more parents as well. So thank you very much.
Oh no, thank you for inviting me to talk.
Thanks for listening to this Send Talks podcast episode. For more detailed information about the topics we discussed in this episode, we have a range of fact sheets that you can download from the SENDIASS Manchester website. Simply head to sendiassmanchester.org.uk. That's SENDISS Manchester.org.uk. If you still have questions about your child or yourself, you can contact the SENDIASS Manchester helpline. Just leave your name and number on the answer machine and we'll phone you back, usually on the same day, to listen to your queries and then offer you advice. And that number for the SENDIASS Manchester helpline is 0161 209 8356. That's 0161 209 8356. Or you can email the parents' inbox. That email address is parents@manchester.gov.uk. That's parents@manchester.gov.uk. Another great resource is the Independent Provider of Special Education Advice. They're also known as IPSEA, IPSEA. They have guides, a helpline and lots more. Just head to their website. That's ipsea.org.uk, ipsea.org.uk. And all those details are in the show notes for this episode. A big thank you to everyone who's contributed their stories and expertise to this episode. The big thing to remember is that you are not alone on this journey, so please do share this episode with the people, parents and carers who you think will find it useful.